Hi, I'm a soft skills trainer from the Department of Career Planning and Development, and today's topic is do's and don'ts of an interview. Well, we've all had an interview in life at some point or the other. It may be formal or informal. But today we are going to be talking about formal interviews that are job interviews. So let's get started. So let's start with the do's of the interview first. Things that you should take care of before you actually go for the interview. Let's start with pre-preparation of an interview. Well, the first thing that you should do is prepare for the interview in terms of understanding about the company. Always make sure that you know what profile you are applying for, and make sure that you read about the company, read about what the company's annual turnover is, read about its objectives, read about where all the company has its locations, as in its units located on the map. Understand the dynamics of the company, of what all other businesses the company is into. So these kind of things are the basic things that give you an idea about the kind of company that you're going for. The other thing that you need to take care of is understanding what is your job profile. Always make sure to read through the KRAs of the job profile if you have them handy, or at least go online and find out what is the job role that is expected out of you under that particular job title. That will actually give you a very fair idea of how to handle interview questions. Always prepare beforehand, working on your confidence level in case you feel that you are not very confident in speaking in front of somebody who's who's not known to you. Then make sure that you practice interview questions in front of a mirror, or at least in front of a family member or a friend, so that you don't have that kind of inhibition about answering the questions beforehand. Let's talk about the resume. The first thing that you need to take care of is that you should have a very well-formed resume. Make sure that it is as per the job profile that you're applying for. It should have your date of birth and everything that is required in a chronological order. You can always look it up. What kind of resume are you supposed to be carrying if you're a fresher online? Make sure that in case you know how many people are there on the panel, take as many copies with you of the resume, because it doesn't, it's not professional if you carry just one copy of the resume. Now, let me give you an example for that. For example, you're sitting in front of a panel that is a panel of 2 or 3 people, and you just have carried one copy of the resume with yourself. And they need to refer at something, and they need to ask you a question. So the distance between you and the interviewer is so that every time he wants you to look at something or look up something on your resume, or asking you something, or there's some kind of reference that they want to make on the resume, they would be giving you the resume, you'll be looking at it. So there's a back and forth shuffling. So what will seem professional is if you carry as many number of resumes, extra number of resumes with yourself, so that you distribute each panel member with a resume, and whenever they want to kind of refer to anything, they don't have to ask for the resume from the other panel member, but they'll have their own copy. You should always keep a copy with yourself also, in case you need to refer at something. That gives a very composed look and tells the interview panel that you are actually very well prepared. The other thing that you need to take care of is the hygiene factor. Now, when I say the hygiene factor and the dressing factor, make sure that you're always dressed up in formals. When I say formals, it means that go for business formals. Checkered shirts and half sleeve shirts are not formals. Well, we can have another video about that, but make sure that you're wearing formals. Make sure you are not wearing a very strong perfume. Women and men shouldn't have a very strong deodorant. That the moment you walk into a room, the room is filled with a whiff of your scent, which is very strong, and people end up sneezing. Don't do that. That is very uncomfortable for people. Make sure that you have a pleasant smell about you, and when you enter into a room, people actually appreciate the smell that comes from you. If you know that you have a body odor, make sure that you control it with a talcum powder or any kind of deodorant that is subtle, not very strong. Make sure that your hair is in place. Have a professional hairstyle. For women, you should consider tying your hair if you can. If you have short hair like mine and it cannot be tied and it looks very bad because of the structure of your hair, then make sure that it is neatly styled so that it is not going all haywire. Don't twirl your hair, or you don't kind of like put your fingers through your hair to upset your hairstyle. Make sure for men that you should not have any gel in your hair and your hair is standing up. Make sure that your hairstyle is very professional with the proper partition. Then make sure that your hands are clean, because that is one thing that most of us ignore. We end up taking so much time on our self-appearance and our clothes and our face that we end up ignoring our hands. Make sure that your hands are clean. Make sure that your nails are trimmed. In case women are having long nails, make sure that you're wearing a very neutral nail color. Do not wear a very bright colored nail paint. Make sure that the colors are neutral. Make sure that your hands look attractive, because that is where you actually, that's the first thing that you use when you give something to the interviewer, or you receive something, you reach for a glass of water. So people end up looking at your hands. It's the main idea is your shoes and your hands should be very neat, because these are the things that people tend to ignore. If you have dirt under your nails, it does not give a very good impression. Or if you have a habit of biting your nails and it shows, then people might have an understanding that you're nervous in an interview. So make sure that your hands are very clean and neat and the nails are trimmed. The other thing that you need to make sure is that you're well rested. Now, in case you are up all night being tensed about the interview next day, or you're too excited and you've prepared for the interview, the next day when you're actually going to be at the interview, you're going to feel very exhausted. And if you end up yawning in an interview, that will not give a very positive impression. So make sure that you're very well rested and you've had 7 to 8 hours of sleep and you feel fresh when you go for the interview. You should let the interviewer set the pace of the interview. Do not prolong the interview unnecessarily by asking too many questions at the end. The kind of question that you can ask is, ask the interviewer, when are you likely to hear about the results of the interview? Okay, so what are the don'ts of an interview? First thing is first, don't be late. Make sure that you are on time. Make sure that you always are before time for the interview, so that you have about 5 to 10 minutes to compose yourself, or in case you have rushed from your place to the interview site, then make sure that you kind of have the time to go to the restroom and take care of your grooming and other things. So always keep a buffer time handy. Make sure that in case you're wearing any overcoat or jacket above your regular office, your formal wear, then take that off before you actually step into the interview room. Do not wear that overcoat or jacket and then enter the room. Make sure that you should sit only when asked to sit. Do not go ahead and take the chair assuming that this chair is meant for you and you'll be sitting. Don't talk to anybody else in case there's another person who walks into the room unless you're spoken to. Greeting is okay if the person greets you, otherwise do not start conversing with that person. Make sure not to use your hands unnecessarily by tapping your fingers on the table, or playing with your hair, or using any kind of gestures that show that you're nervous or you're getting impatient. Don't check your watch. Make sure that if there are any kind of documents lying in front of you that belong to the interviewer, don't look at the documents and check them out as to what is written on them. That's called intrusion. Make sure that you do not put your elbows on the table like that when speaking. Make sure that your hands remain in your lap or composed with yourself. Make sure that your hand movements are composed. They should not be very elaborate when speaking. Again, you should not have long fingernails, and make sure that your fingernails are absolutely trimmed and in place. Your hands should look good. Carry a folder or a bag that actually should be able to contain all your documents. Do not carry oversized bags even if they are in fashion, because at times you don't have a place to keep them. So make sure that the size of the bag that you're carrying with yourself for women should be small. And for men, if you're carrying a folder, make sure that you keep the folder in your lap. Do not put the folder on the table. That is not something that you should do. Do not touch anything on the table, period. Even if there's a glass of water lying there, until and unless asked to do so, do not go ahead and pick that glass of water up and start drinking from it. Don't keep adjusting your clothes, or tapping your feet, or making any kind of unnecessary gestures. Make sure that if you're wearing glasses, don't wear the photochromatic version of the glasses. Make sure that you're wearing clear glasses. If you use the glasses that are photochromatic, then make sure that you take an alternate pair for your interview time, because if you come out from the sunlight and then enter the room and your glasses turn dark and they are not able to see your eyes, that does not give a very good impression to the interviewer. Make sure that you carry all your documents and your resume in a proper order. Don't fumble. And don't take out all the documents in order to just find the resume that you want to give the employer. You should seem composed and not at all nervous when doing that. Make sure that you're not chewing anything, a mint or a gum, whatever that you're chewing before the interview starts. Make sure that you discard of that. And also make sure that when you are speaking to the interviewer, you have to be very clear in the way you are speaking. Do not mumble, do not whisper, or your voice should not be very low. Make sure that the interviewers are able to hear you clearly when you are speaking to them. Do not interrupt the interviewer in the middle of any question. If the interviewer is going through your resume, you should give them enough time for going through the resume before without speaking anything. Do not interrupt them or chitter chatter with the interviewer, thinking that okay, he's at that section and you should have the you feel the obligation to explain what's written in your resume. Let them read your resume in peace. Do not interrupt in any way before the interviewer actually comes up and asks you the question. Make sure that you give complete answers to the question. Refrain from giving a yes or no answer to any questions. Make sure that you elaborate on your answers. Don't lie, because you always tend to get caught if you're lying. Interviewers have this knack of understanding that when you're lying, because there's something in your facial expression, or they kind of are able to read you very clearly in case you are lying. And if you get caught during your interview that you're lying, then God help you, you will not get that interview. You will be wasting your time as well as the interviewer's time. Do not ask about the salary. Don't ask how much am I supposed to expect in this job. You should be having that information beforehand. It's a subtle information that you should be keeping to yourself. Do not directly ask the interviewer what will you be making in this particular job. Don't ask, will I get this job? Well, that is up to the interviewer. He will let you know. As I said earlier, you can ask, when will you hear back about the results of the interview, but do not ask, will I be getting this job or not, because the interviewer will not give you the answer right away. Do not criticize your past employer if you've had any in front of the interviewer, because if you tend to do that, then the interviewer might think that if you're bad mouthing your previous employer who actually put food on your table by paying you for the services that you gave them, tomorrow if you leave them, you'll also be bad mouthing them. So that talks quite a lot about your character. So make sure that you don't badmouth about your previous company or your previous employer. So these were the don'ts about the interview. In case you have any questions, put them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Thanks for watching.